love your bangs.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think I'm on. Yes, I'm on. Some of you may know what this picture is. But if you don't, we're going to circle back to it in just a second. I just wanted to start off with a question. We've heard a lot about leadership and engagement, empowerment, and let me ask you this question. How would it feel, or more importantly, what could your business or organization accomplish if everyone worked together as a team? What if they performed as a cohesive unit? How would it feel if every day people showed up and worked on common objectives, or took initiative, or just looked out for each other? Or better yet, what if they just brought the most highly fantastic, positive attitudes? How would that feel? What could you accomplish with that? I'll bet you're thinking right now you could accomplish anything. But that might seem like a tall order, especially when you consider that statistics show that engagement levels for employees are at all-time lows. But I'm here to tell you there's a step that you can take to start increasing engagement and empowerment in your team. And I believe that first step is leadership development. Regardless of what industry we're in, I think you'd agree that as leaders, aren't we all in the people business? That's right. We need to spend more time developing our people. Getting them to think like leaders, act like leaders, perform like leaders, planting leadership seeds in them. The cost of leadership development is so small compared to the return that we can get by encouraging our people to develop. And so that brings me back to these steps. This is where I started my leadership journey. Does anybody know what those steps represent? Okay. And what do they represent? That is the 45-degree angle that your feet need to be at to stand at the position of attention. And my leadership journey started on August 24th, 1987. And I stepped off of the bus at the recruiting depot in San Diego, California. I stood on those yellow footprints. And I began the onboarding program for the United States Marine Corps. And what is that onboarding program called? Boot camp. Yes, it is. Anybody see the movie Full Metal Jacket? That's exactly what it's like. And I saw Full Metal Jacket in the theater 3 weeks before I went into boot camp. No, I didn't laugh coming out of it, though. But it was a pivotal time in my life. It was a time when I learned the difference between leading and managing, and I learned how important the role is of leaders. And boot camp was tough. There's no doubt about it. How many of you have an onboarding program in your business right now? Do you have an onboarding for new people? Okay. And so if I'm the new guy, and today's my first day, what can I expect from onboarding? Maybe an orientation? Maybe a tour where I get to meet my coworkers? Let me ask you this. When somebody starts at your organization, is it friendly and welcoming? One person said, yes, I would like to work for you. That's not how it was here. Boot camp was not friendly and welcoming. So let me introduce you to my onboarders. These are my drill instructors. And I want you to take a close look at that picture, because this is the picture that they posed for. This went home to our moms. They never looked that happy when we were with them. They were incredibly focused on our training. They trained us how to fire our weapons accurately. They trained us how to operate our gas masks, and they trained us how to survive in the field. But they did more than train us, they developed us. Every step of the way, they planted leadership seeds in us. Leadership traits and leadership principles. Why would they develop us as leaders? Because the military has one of the highest engagement levels of any organization, and their foundation is leadership. Whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, or Marines, they developed us as leaders. And I learned the difference between leading and managing. I learned that we manage work, and we lead people. We manage shift schedules and budgets and inventory. But we lead people. We inspire and motivate. We empower and engage. And we were developed to think like leaders even before anybody was following us. I was developed to think like a leader before I even knew what my job would be. And 3 months later, I graduated and earned the title of United States Marine. But I was developed to think like a leader, act like a leader, and perform like a leader. And then I was sent to school for my job. My job was a 7311. Anybody know what a 7311 is in the Marine Corps? Of course, I'm looking back at you to see if you know that one. I was an air, what'd you think? No, I was not infantry. I was an air traffic controller. And so 5 months of schooling for ATC, and I was sent to Yuma, Arizona, the busiest military airport in the world, and I worked right in that tower. How many of you have flown anywhere recently? How do you feel knowing 18-year-olds are controlling traffic? I had a headset and I was up there. And we controlled traffic for the civilian airport as well. So there's a chance when you fly back home, 18-year-olds are talking to your pilots. How do they do that? It doesn't make any sense. Wait a minute. They didn't just train us to be air traffic controllers. They developed us to think like leaders. And sure, I was trained as an air traffic controller, but I had to think like a leader, act like a leader, perform like a leader, because what's at stake in the military? Lives. And that's why leadership is so important, and that's why it's the foundation. And what's important in your organization? Maybe livelihoods. So maybe leadership should be that foundation. Now, I think we make a mistake sometimes. We train people sometimes to have better workers, but we could actually develop them to have better people. And the thing about leadership that's so important is it sticks with us. And these leadership seeds grow in us, the traits, the principles, and we never know when we're going to need them. We cannot predict all of the challenges coming. Would you agree with that? The challenges come. Now, there we go. 4 years after I left the Marine Corps, I met the girl of my dreams, Gina. And 3 years later, we got married. We got married on Halloween of 1998. We were from California, so it's not weird out there. And like most married couples, most newlyweds, we set some goals. And what are some goals that some newlywed couples might set? Have children, have a house. Sure, we set all those goals. Has anybody in here ever set a goal and life threw you a curveball and just made it tough to accomplish? Or is it just me? All right, a few of you. And so 10 months in, I had a situation that I could not manage my way through. I had to lead us through. And Gina received a call from her doctor saying, you have cancer. And she was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. What do you think happened to all of our goals? On hold, yeah, they changed. They went to the back burner. It was so bad, we stopped focusing on them. We didn't even talk about them. And her oncologist laid out her treatments, which was going to start with chemotherapy. And they trained me to be a caregiver. Any caregivers in here? Okay. Yeah. They trained me how to give her shots in the legs every night, how to clean the exit wound from her Hickman line, and how to flush it with saline every night, just to take care of her. And then her oncologist did something incredible. And I believe that he started to develop me. And he pulled me into a separate room where Gina couldn't hear me. And he said, I need you to do something that's going to help her to fight back. And I said this. I said, I'll do whatever it takes. He said, I need you to keep her positive and keep her spirits high. Does anybody know anybody that's ever been on chemotherapy? And how high are their spirits and how positive are they? They're not. He knew what was coming, but we didn't, so he developed me. He developed me to lead our way through there. And they gave her the first dose of chemotherapy, and they said, you need to get her home within 30 minutes, it's going to kick in. And I drove to our 864 square foot apartment in Chino Hills, California. And before the car even stopped rolling, Gina ran out of the car into the house, into the little apartment, and she got violently ill. And she probably threw up for hours. And I kept a cool cloth on her forehead, and I just stood there. And at one point, the chemo kicked in so hard that she looked up at me, and she says, I think I'm going to die right now. And she was 27. And this is what I said. I flashed back to the oncologist saying, keep her positive, keep her spirits high. And I said, you're going to be okay. That was all I had. Looking back, I think he meant, give it more. But that was all I had. And for 3 weeks, the chemo kicked her butt. At the end of the 3 weeks, she started to feel a little bit better. And guess what they did? They gave her more. And 3 weeks later, 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 they gave her more. 7 cycles of chemotherapy, 21 weeks. And at the end of that, on Valentine's Day of 2000, I made dinner reservations because we hadn't gone out to dinner in a long time, and I took her in for her checkup. And the chemo was so rough on her body, I knew we were going to get good results. But I don't even remember where we made reservations to because her oncologist ran in and said, I need you to get her to Western Medical Center right away. 7th floor, we found 2 more masses growing inside of her. And so I did, and on the drive out there, Gina cried, and what do you think I said to her? You're going to be okay. And they studied her and ran tests for a week and said, you need to get her over to this facility every day for a month so we can do radiation to her upper torso. So I did, and for 30 days, they radiated her, and after that treatment, they said it's had no effect. And she cried again, and what do you think I said to her? You're going to be okay. And our oncologist said, there's one last hope. We're going to send you to the City of Hope, a cancer research facility in Duarte, California. And I took her there. And we waited in a long room with a big table. And we sat at the end, kind of way down there. And 45 minutes later, a new oncologist came in and he sat way down there, even though there were chairs all lined up. And this is what he said. We've looked at all of your scans and your charts and your x-rays. The cancer is still growing very aggressively. We're going to try one more form of chemotherapy, and if it works, we'll admit you to the City of Hope and attempt a stem cell transplant. And I looked at her and I said, that's what we need. And then he said this. If that doesn't work, you won't be here the same time next year. They'll schedule you at the front. And I'm not going to ask you what Gina did, because you know she cried, she broke down. And what do you think I said to her? It'll be okay. It was all I had. And so they admitted her. They actually admitted her to this room. And yes, that is me with hair. And they admitted her to this room where she stayed for 30 days in a sterile environment. And I would go in and I would tap her to make sure she was still with us. And when she would look at me, I would talk to her and try and inspire her. And one day I went in and I said, I've got to have something better than you're going to be okay. I tapped her shoulder and I brought a goal from the back burner. I brought one of our goals to the front and I said, you know what? When you're not sick anymore, not if, because doesn't every word send a message, leaders? I said, when you're not sick anymore, let's go look for that house. And this woman who could barely get out of bed pushed herself up and started to tell me all about the house, the color of the walls, the flooring, the outside, the backyard. And I realized how much hope goals gave. And I had to lead our way through this. I couldn't manage it. Now, she went into remission here. And I share this story with you because we never know the challenges that will come. 3 years later, she was diagnosed with basal cell cancer. In 2010, the radiation that didn't work came back and gave her breast cancer. After recovering from the mastectomy in 2011, she was diagnosed with melanoma. And she beat all those, and every single time we set goals, every single time I handled it as a leader. In March of 2016, I walked home, opened the door, and I heard Gina take her last breath. She suffered from a virus that we would fight off, but her heart was so weak that she passed. And I started CPR, called 911, and they came and hit her with the defibrillators, and there was nothing. And the second time they hit her, they got her back. And she was in a coma for almost a week, and when she recovered, and I was taking her to a new room to put a defibrillator into her chest, she actually looked up at me and said, I think we need to set some more goals. And she's made a full recovery. And in fact, I talked to her on the break. I share this with you because we don't know what challenges are coming. And the thing that I want to leave you with today is I want to encourage you to plant leadership seeds in your team. I want to encourage you to develop your people. I want to encourage you to give them the tools and the resources to handle any single challenge, because often the challenges we face at work are nothing compared to the challenges we face at home. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.